So what's the fastest, easiest thing you can do right now to help your child with ADHD improve symptoms naturally? Well, diet, of course. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the top 4 things that you need in your diet to help improve your child's symptoms naturally. Hi, I'm Monica Perez Garcia, and I'm a registered dietitian specializing in children with ADHD. And in today's video, we're going to be going over the top foods to help reduce your child's symptoms naturally. But before I continue, please like and subscribe to my channel to receive updates and new videos. So I know you've likely tried doing lots of things to help your child, perhaps supplements, maybe cut out food colorings or gluten and dairy and all kinds of different things, but you're still not seeing improvements. But today I want to focus on the things that we should be including. And so focusing on eliminating things can be one strategy, but truthfully, the starting point is adding things into your child's diet, because usually what's going on with these children is that they are undernourished, meaning that they are missing the nutrients the body needs to function properly. And so the best thing that we can do is to start nourishing their body with all the ingredients it needs to function. So instead of eliminating, we're going to be adding things to help them out. So today we're going to be covering 4 different foods or food categories that the brain needs to function optimally. And just know that even if one of these things is missing from their diet, it can have downstream effects and cause ADHD symptoms. So it's important to include all of them as often as possible. So the first category is protein. And I know protein's getting a lot of press right now, and for a lot of good reason. And so protein is really important, especially for children that are growing, because it is the building block and it's what the body needs to create the neurotransmitters in the brain. And without enough protein, the body can't do this. Another important role that protein has is that it helps stabilize blood sugar. And so children with ADHD, there's lots of research showing that they have issues controlling their blood sugar. And one of the easiest ways that we can do this is by including protein at every meal. And so the protein, along with the carbohydrate, will slow down the rate in which it's absorbed and not cause the sugar crashes or the carb crashes that we see frequently with kids with ADHD. So a lot of the hangriness or the tantrums that we see, especially after school or when they're hungry, these are likely due to sugar crashes. And so by including protein at every meal will help control this. Okay, so for protein, we need a variety of different sources of protein. So having things from chicken and beef and eggs or dairy, this is important because they all contain different sets of amino acids and they all have different properties and purposes. So by including a variety instead of just chicken every single day is very important. And it's also important to purchase things as best quality as you can afford and as you can find. If you can find a local farmer, that's great. Otherwise, if you could find things that are organic or grass-fed and finished, the best that you can afford. And we want to do these at every meal and a variety of different things. Like I said, they all contain different things. Eggs is a bonus because they contain choline, which is another nutrient that the brain really needs to function properly. And I find that lots of people are low in choline, and eggs is the primary source. So including a variety of protein at every meal is ideal, including snack time and breakfast time, as we see sometimes the kids are missing out on a little bit of protein for breakfast, which later on causes a sugar crash. So a variety of different sources, the best quality that you can get, and at every meal. So those are the important things about protein. Okay, a note about protein powder. And although it's very convenient and can get you out of a quick fix, I don't recommend it as a primary source of protein for every meal or most meals, because it is still a processed food. And although there are good quality versions on the market and those are okay to have every now and then, I don't recommend it as a primary source for your child because it's still processed. So we want to go for things that look like something on the plate where you can recognize where it came from. The second category that we're talking about is fats. Healthy fats, of course, But fats are really important, especially for the brain. In fact, the brain is more than half of it made from fats. So this is a really important thing to make sure we're including at every meal. And so we've seen all the research on how omega-3s are helpful for the brain. And what they do essentially is reduce inflammation, which is one of the reasons why children have ADHD symptoms. And so things like omega-3s are great. My initial recommendation is to start with sources of fatty fish. If your child is not a fish fan, then omega-3s that come from cod liver oil would be my next bet. Processed omega-3 supplements are low on my choices just because it's a heavily processed food. So food first, but yes, fat is super important, and we do know the importance of omega-3s on brain health. Another thing that fat does is it helps stabilize blood sugar. As we mentioned earlier, children with ADHD tend to have issues controlling blood sugar, and so fat is another way to slow down the digestion so that they're not having those crashes. So one of the things that we tend to forget about fat is that that's where some of the vitamins are found. And so whenever we choose fat-free or reduce fats, we're essentially getting rid of the fat-soluble vitamins, which are really important. And we're finding now that most of us tend to be very low in these vitamins because we've been cutting out fat. Another important role of fat is hormone production. So when we go really low fat, we tend to see issues with hormone development. And these children are starting or going through puberty and need a lot of support. And that means good, healthy fats. And lastly, fats help keep somebody full and satiated. And so this is another reason why we like to include fat at every meal. So the third category of food is fruits and vegetables. And so there's many reasons for this, but one of my favorite reasons is because of gut health. And so we do know that gut health and brain health are connected. In fact, the gut is named the second brain for a reason, and they communicate to each other. The gut also makes some neurotransmitters, so it's really important that we keep the gut very happy. And one of the ways that we do that is by feeding the microbiome or the bacteria in our gut the foods that they enjoy eating. And so this is one great way to make sure that your child's ADHD symptoms are helped naturally, and that is including a variety of different plants and plant fibers and fruits and vegetables. Now, again, the source of the fat is very important. So purchasing the best quality that you can, but we will also want to focus on fat that is not processed. And so having things like avocados and nuts and olives, coconuts, these are great sources of fat that come naturally and are anti-inflammatory. And so staying away from processed oils like seed oils or oils that have been highly processed is something that we want to avoid. A little bit of ghee or olive oil in the kitchen is okay, or coconut oil, which I like as well. But the other types of oils like the canola oil or the grapeseed or all those other ones, we should use them minimally because they are heavily processed. And so always try to choose fat that comes in a more natural form. And so nuts are great, avocados, like I said, some ghee, some olive oil, coconut oil. Those are great sources of fat that you should be including in your child's meal every day. And so aside from gut health, we also know that they have lots of antioxidants and they help reduce inflammation, the brain inflammation that we've talked about before. And these are reduced by eating things that have a lot of these plant nutrients that you cannot find in a supplement. And so things like dark berries or, green veggies, all the different colors mean something different for the gut and for the brain. And so including a variety of different colors, they like to say to eat the rainbow every day. So by picking something from the red category, something that's orange and yellow and green and blue, and having a variety guarantees that your child is going to get all the nutrients that are beneficial for their brain. So the fourth category is mineral-rich foods. And I want to point out that it's number 4 on my list, but it's super important. And maybe it should have been number 1 because I do find that this is the one category that people have the most trouble with. I don't know if it's lack of awareness or it's just something that we don't think about, but minerals are the backbone of the body. It is the way that the body communicates and functions at the basic level. We need lots and lots of minerals, and this is where I find the struggle is real. And so I think one of the other reasons why minerals have so much difficulty is because we need minerals from plants, and these have been diminished with farming. And so what ends up happening is that the amount of minerals that we have in today's food is a lot less than what we used to have 20, 30, even 50 years ago. So those have gone down, and the body also uses lots of minerals when it's under stress. And so in today's modern age, we need more minerals than we did before. And so when you add those two together, we have less minerals coming in and more minerals being used up. We find that this is one of the biggest areas where we need support. And so minerals have lots of important things that they do inside of the body, but we need them in really high amounts. So things like calcium, potassium, magnesium, and sodium, these four we need in really large quantities every day, and preferably from food. So these things we don't want to go out and get a supplement for. Aside from magnesium, I find magnesium sometimes a supplement or Epsom salt bath is helpful. But for all the other ones, we really want to focus on getting them from food. And so one of the reasons why our children have heavy metals in their bodies is because of the lack of minerals. And so what ends up happening is the gaps that are created from low minerals in the diet are like little spots open in the body where they can receive heavy metals to take their place. And so the more minerals your child has in their diet and in their body, the less chance we have of a heavy metal coming in and taking a spot inside of their body. So it's really important for them to have really great mineral status. And like I mentioned before, we need to have lots and lots of it every single day. So making sure that we're thinking about this actively is going to be important. So potassium, I find, is one of the things we need the most of, and one of the things we get the least of. But luckily, it is available in foods that we typically eat. And so just making sure that we include those daily. So some of my favorite are potatoes with their skins on. Coconut water is a great source of potassium, as is orange juice, freshly pressed if possible. And so avocados too, I shouldn't forget avocados, but these are things that have decent amounts of potassium. Another easy hack for kids that tend to be a little picky, or maybe they don't like all of those foods, is cream of tartar. So cream of tartar, which is that baking staple that we buy once and never use, is actually loaded with potassium. And so you can add that to foods or drinks, and it doesn't have any flavor, and it's a white powder, dissolves in things, and it can be a potassium boost. So this is one easy way to get potassium. Another thing that we want to think about is sodium. So sodium we want to get from natural sea salt. So purchasing a good quality unrefined sea salt and encouraging them to add it to their food is a great way to make sure they're getting enough sodium. Sodium has gotten really bad press lately, and it's being blamed for high blood pressure and all sorts of ailments. But in reality, we do need nice quality sea salt. The problem is if you are eating lots of refined or processed salt and we're not balancing it out with potassium, then it can become an issue. But we do need to have good quality unrefined sea salt every day, and we need to pair it with potassium for optimal health. And so magnesium, which I touched upon lightly, is another mineral that we need large amounts of, and they are also found in lots of different foods. But I find that it's a little tricky to get enough, and magnesium is something we really burn through under times of stress. And so I find the Epsom salt baths are my personal favorite, and I find are really helpful for kids that are still taking baths. You can even do a foot soak, or there's magnesium oils. So if your child doesn't want to take another supplement, or they're having trouble absorbing things in their gut, You can do it topically, and so there's nice creams that they sell. There's different ways of getting magnesium into the body, but it's something that we need to include because children with ADHD are typically low in magnesium as well. And so calcium is another mineral that we need in large amounts every day. I don't recommend getting it from a supplement, but calcium, which is found in dairy and dark leafy greens, is something really important for brain health and bone health and teeth health. And it's one of the minerals that we need in combinations with the other ones that we mentioned. Now, if your child does struggle with getting enough dairy, or they're having issues with calcium, you can make an eggshell powder at home. They also sell it already made, but you can easily make it at home, and you can sprinkle that into their food, and that's another way to give them a calcium boost. So those are the 4 main minerals that we talk about. But there's also other minerals that are super important. And so for ADHD, zinc is a big one that we love to talk about. And zinc is super important and a great mineral to think about. So I want to highlight zinc because I find that about 90% of the kids that I work with are very low in zinc. Some are extremely low in zinc. And zinc is super important for many reasons, especially the gut and for appetite. And so I find that kids that are picky eaters sometimes have a zinc deficiency, and zinc impacts taste. So if a child is low in zinc, then they do not taste things properly, and this leads to picky eating. So zinc status is a big one for that. And we also need to have zinc for digestion. It's needed on different areas of the gut. So to make enough stomach acid, which we struggle with, to keep the lining of the gut intact, or leaky gut as we now call it, which I see all the time as well and causes food sensitivities. We need lots of zinc for that as well. So if a child is low in zinc, which we see often, then we end up seeing struggles in the gut. So this is something that I like to point out. Unfortunately, zinc is found in oysters and seafood, which a lot of kids don't like to eat, and in protein sources. And we do find that children that are low in zinc tend to not want to eat protein. And so it's a little bit of a cycle. And so this is another reason why I sometimes recommend a zinc supplement to see if it helps boost their appetite and help prevent any gut issues. So that sums up the 4 different categories that I like. I couldn't pick just 4 different foods, but there are some clear winners in each category that we discussed. And so including these in every meal is a great way to help your child reduce their ADHD symptoms naturally. So whenever you are preparing them a meal or meal planning or whatever it is that you do, make sure that you're including each of those components in their meal to optimize their gut and brain health, which is super important for these kids. So remember, we want to start by adding in these foods to make sure their body has all the ingredients that it needs to function optimally. Eliminating things, while it may have its place, we really want to start with giving them what they need to function. And so starting by giving them these healthy, unprocessed foods that we just discussed is a surefire way to help them naturally. And it's something you can do starting today. You don't need to see anyone or get a prescription for it. Just go into your grocery store and have fun with it and get your kids involved. So those are the foods that I recommend. In another video, I'm going to discuss the foods that you should be avoiding with ADHD, so stick around for that. And like I said, if you like my content, please subscribe and like. And I have a link in my bio on the 6 things that you can do now. It's a quick start guide for ADHD, so go ahead and download that. And I will see you in the next video. And remember, your child's brain isn't broken, it's just out of balance.